That was beautiful, Carrie. Thank you so much. Are we getting weather alerts? Is that what I'm hearing? Are we thunderstorms, flash flooding? I don't know. It's Missouri. Anything's possible. So several of you know that I'm taking classes through UWSI, and recently I finished a session of classes, and one of the classes was called The Christ in All, DEI and Unity. And so in this course, we covered topics about identity, bias, systemic inequality, inclusive communication, and we discussed the importance of courageous conversations and a willingness to be open to learning. I thought it was just divinely provided that we had a really large class and we had a really diverse class for this session. So we had a mix of individuals. We had younger generations, older generations, different races, different sexual orientations, those who were well-versed in diversity, equity, and inclusion terminology, those who were hearing terms for the first time, individuals from different socioeconomic statuses, and different genders. And we spent about 10 weeks together learning, and there are pieces of those conversations and parts of that awareness that I will carry through for the rest of my time. I just will remember some of those people and some of the things that were said. So I'm not standing up here as an expert in diversity, equity, and inclusion, or in belonging and acceptance. But I am standing up here to say, I think we need to keep the door open for conversations and learning for us each as individuals and for us as this Unity community of Springfield, Unity of Springfield. So it's important for us to know that our Unity headquarters has a DEI statement. Maybe. Lisa, you may have to help me out. Oh, there we go. And it says, together we embrace our individuality, we celebrate our uniqueness with full acceptance of all people, including every expression of the divine. We come together with love and compassion to be a light for all, and we stand together in unity. So that can be found on our Unity headquarters website at unity.org. It also states that we are a spiritual community dedicated to advancing spiritual awakening and transformation in the world. Materials, programs, services, and outreach are designed to provide practical spiritual tools and resources to help address the issues challenging today's world. Inclusion, diversity, equity, and acceptance are important to us. So, and there's a whole page on the website with multiple resources and materials that are free to download. Some of them are free just to read. You don't even have to download anything. And it talks about all different facets of inclusion, diversity, and equity that are impacting our faith community and the world as a whole. And these resources do include specific articles around LGBTQIA support and racial inequality. And I have to say, I know Sue had said it prior, but really you can see within the offerings on the unity.org website that I really respect that our organization doesn't shy away from discussing the times in history when actions didn't line up with principle in the unity movement. So you'll find articles about how racial equality was not addressed as quickly as some would have hoped, and there's just all of that is really transparent and out there. So we are here today as individuals from different backgrounds, different experiences, from different stories and different walks of life, and beneath all of those beautiful differences is one sacred truth, and that is what Unity teachings remind us again and again. There is only one power and one presence active in the universe and in our lives. God the good expressing everywhere and as everyone. And that means every person we meet carries a spark of the divine. It means every voice matters. It means every life has value. And it means every person brings something sacred to our human family. So as this idea was coming up in class, there was one night as the discussion was unfolding that I started thinking about that folktale stone soup. And so most of you may know this story. So it starts with a traveler arriving to a village carrying nothing but an empty cooking pot. The other villagers are skeptical and some are even fearful, and so they start to protect their things and they hide all of their food. And the traveler fills up a pot with water, places a stone inside, and sets it over the fire. Eventually, curiosity wins out over the fear, and someone comes out to ask the question to the traveler, "What are you doing? What are you making?" And the traveler replies, "Stone soup," and tastes it and says, "It's good, but it would be better with a few carrots." One of the villagers reluctantly offers up a few carrots to throw in, and the traveler again tastes it and says, "Yes, it's even better, but boy, if we had some potatoes." And so the story goes, with each villager adding something different. And the pot begins to fill with onions and herbs and beans and salt. And each taste gets better and better and gets declared as the best pot of soup ever made. And eventually what they have is a pot of soup that's large enough to feed the entire village. And they come together and they share this feast, and they find it to be incredibly rich and nourishing, as well as the conversation in the community that's created through this experience. So the beauty of this story as it relates to our topic today is that the miracle was never in the stone. It was in the willingness of the people to contribute what they had. And it was in the willingness to come together as community. And the true miracle was inclusion. The story can be framed in many different ways. You can frame it as a story about cooperation and other lessons, but I really saw this as a lesson in diversity as well. It's a lesson about belonging and coming together as allies with each other. The story reminds us that there appears to be scarcity at times, but that can open up to hidden abundance when we come together. When each of us brings our own unique gift to the common table, we all receive what we need. Unity teaches there is one presence and one power active in the universe, and that we are each an expression of that presence. And that means that divine presence is expressing itself through infinite forms. A new visual I recently read was equating this to the sun shining through a stained glass window. So it's one beam of sunlight hitting that window. And there's lots of different colors of glass that make up the image. And as the light passes through the colored glass, it's refracted to take on a hue similar to the colored glass. As early as the 12th century, the colored light was referred to as lux nova, and this is a Latin term meaning new light or radiant light. The light was believed to have a spiritual quality that uplifted and connected worshipers in the divine, and this is evidence as the popular use of stained glass in cathedrals and churches worldwide. This imagery can serve as a reminder for us that we're not called to become identical. We are called to recognize the sacredness of our differences. Charles Fillmore reminded us that God is the name of everywhere present principle. If God is everywhere present, then God is present in every person, every culture, every background, every ability, identity, and every life experience. And if we believe this is true, then diversity is not a problem to solve. It's evidence of divine creativity. If we think about the Garden of Spirit, it would not be nearly as magnificent if it only held one type of flower in one color that bloomed at one time. It's far more beautiful with a variety of seeds, a variety of flowers, different blooms, different shapes, sizes, colors, all working together to create one beautiful garden. If we go back to the story of stone soup, every villager, if they had only brought potatoes, the soup would be edible and even maybe nourishing, but it would be hardly remarkable. It wouldn't be a soup to talk about for years, right? It became extraordinary because each person contributed something different. And every ingredient was welcomed and allowed to retain its unique nature. In this way, each ingredient contributed to the larger whole. Our communities can flourish in the same way. When people from different backgrounds, cultures, abilities, perspectives, and life experiences are welcomed, honored, and included, the collective wisdom expands. The richness of our soup deepens upon the richness of the ingredients, and the richness of our spiritual community depends upon the richness of people gathered within it. We often hear organizations speaking about inclusion, and we've done that in this very community. In our class, we did talk about the importance of inclusion, which is asking who is invited to the table. But what often gets missed is the next step of ensuring that everyone invited feels like they actually belong. A person may feel invited or included, but still invisible or out of place. A person might feel as if they're welcome or tolerated without ever feeling truly heard or part of the group. Belonging occurs when people know that they are welcome just as they are, not merely tolerated, but celebrated. In the stone soup story, the villagers didn't simply throw an ingredient in and then leave. They gathered around the pot, they talked about the ingredients as they came together, they welcomed each new ingredient as equally important, and then they stayed to share that meal together and celebrate in the amazing soup that they had created together. This created community and transformed strangers into neighbors. From a unity perspective, belonging reflects the spiritual truth that we belong because we are already one in spirit. Creating a space where true belonging is possible requires us to embody the mission statement that we read each week. We read it again this morning, to empower each other to be authentically all that we came here to be. We can create an environment where individuals from diverse backgrounds are welcomed, respected, and given equal opportunities to participate. One of our class materials used the idea of a party to show how belonging goes beyond inclusion. So inclusion is getting the invite to the party. If you show up, your presence is acknowledged and you're allowed to participate, but it doesn't guarantee that you actually feel like part of the group. How many of us have been to a party where we're kind of sitting on the edge of the room, or we're sitting at a table while others are talking and it looks like they're having great fun, but you just don't really know where your place is in that fun? Belonging is getting the invitation to the party, and then while you're at the party, someone making sure that you're invited to dance, or someone knowing your favorite song and making sure it gets played so that you can join in. And it's feeling like your presence actually adds to the event, that it's not just a token gesture. This leads to true connection versus simple proximity. I know that I have felt this experience as a lesbian woman living in a conservative part of the country. There are definitely times that I feel like I've been invited to the party with an unspoken understanding that I won't find other individuals from the LGBTQIA community there, and that sharing too much about my life might result in some really uncomfortable conversations for myself, others, and may even lead to feelings of rejection. There is some part of me or my presence that is welcomed as long as I'm willing to hold back pieces of myself. And as I grow older and more grounded in my authenticity, I find myself less and less willing to spend time in those spaces. I've had people reach out about why I no longer come to certain events or places, stating that they miss my presence. However, when I explain my feelings, they're met with phrases like, well, you know, I don't feel that way. Or, that's just how it is. We live in the Bible Belt. That's a difference between inclusion and belonging. There are other spaces where it doesn't matter if there's another LGBTQIA individual present or not, because everyone in the group is celebrated as their whole self, as the unique person that they are. It's safe to share ideas and opinions, even if they differ with the majority. It's safe to have authentic relationships and connections are created. True feelings of emotional engagement and belonging are present. Those are the spaces where I choose to spend my time. Those are the spaces I look forward to being in. And that's where I align my energy and my time and my talent. And those are the things I want to pour into. I also have to say I recognize that my own personal unique expression allows me the privilege of choosing which spaces and to whom I share my authentic self. Other marginalized groups are othered simply based on their appearance before anyone even has a chance to get to know them. Our unity principles invite us beyond tolerance, beyond even acceptance, and into celebration. Celebration says your uniqueness is not something to tolerate. Your uniqueness is part of the wholeness of creation. Each culture, each life experience, each generation, each identity, and each perspective carries wisdom. When we celebrate diversity, we begin to see difference not as an obstacle to unity, but as a pathway to greater understanding. And if we think again about the sunlight shining through the stained glass, we see how one beam of light becomes many colors, and every color is necessary to reveal the true beauty and dimension of the whole. We have stained glass right here in this sanctuary, and I know I've been in other spaces, and has anyone ever been sitting in a space where it's kind of cloudy outside, and then that beam of light hits a beautiful piece of stained glass, and it is an awesome experience, is it not? Human diversity is like that. One divine presence expressing in countless beautiful ways. A healthy spiritual community makes room for people to show up authentically. Belonging is deeper than being invited into the room. Belonging means we're saying you don't have to hide who you are to be loved here. Belonging means people are not included symbolically, but they're valued genuinely. And it means people can speak, lead, create, and contribute without leaving pieces of themselves behind or hiding them away. That is spiritual love in action. Part of our spiritual growth, and one of the biggest lessons in my recent class, was all of us recognizing that we all have blind spots. We see the world through the lens of our own experience, upbringing, culture, and conditioning, and sometimes we unintentionally exclude others because we've not yet learned to see things from beyond our learned perspective. Unity teaches that transformation begins in consciousness, and awareness is not about shame, it's about awakening. When we discover a blind spot, we have an opportunity to grow into compassion and wisdom. For example, we may assume that everyone feels equally welcome in a space because we feel comfortable there, but someone else, based on their experience, may have barriers that we would never notice. A person with a disability may notice what others have overlooked for years. A person from a marginalized racial or cultural background may experience subtle exclusion invisible to those in the majority. A young person, an elder, an immigrant, or someone questioning their identity may carry experiences that we cannot fully understand because we have not walked in their shoes. Spiritual maturity asks us to listen without defensiveness. Instead of saying, well, that can't possibly be true, or I would never intentionally do that, we can say, what can I learn from this person's experience? It's the curiosity and willingness to actually listen that opens the door to healing. One of my classmates, Warren, made a comment that really stood out with me. He shared that through the awareness of the discussion that we were having, he was amazed at how loving, kind, and in many ways clueless he and others in his spiritual community had been. He talked about being in unity for over 20 years and receiving the teaching to see Christ in all people over and over and over again within that time. And he talked about how he and many of the people that he attends his spiritual community with would probably say that they do a great job in seeing the Christ in all. But looking through the fresh eyes of some of the experiences of our classmates, his comment was that he now wonders if there are times when they have mistaken camaraderie with like-minded individuals as celebrating diversity and seeing the Christ in all. So they've mistaken the comfort of the camaraderie of being around like-minded individuals for the celebration of diversity. And he was talking about when he looks around his spiritual community, he recognizes that an outsider would look in and say, this is not a very diverse spiritual community. We talked a lot about this quote from Maya Angelou in class, that you do the best you can until you know better. Then when you know better, you do better. And this is a powerful model for spiritual growth because it doesn't require perfection, just a willingness to listen, learn, and grow. And what we then do with that awareness shapes our spiritual practice of allyship. Being an ally means that we are using our voice and presence and influence to support those who are marginalized or excluded. An ally helps to create space for others to be heard, to notice who's left out of the conversation or invitations, and to interrupt prejudice when it's uncomfortable, even when it's uncomfortable, and a willingness to learn from mistakes rather than becoming defensive and shutting down. True allyship may look like listening to marginalized voices without judging or arguing or explaining, learning about experiences different than our own, speaking up when someone is demeaned or excluded, making sure opportunities and leadership are accessible to everyone, asking who is not being represented at this table, and remaining teachable and humble. In Unity, we affirm that divine love is active within us, and love is not passive. Love acts, love includes, love protects dignity, and love creates belonging. I'm going to invite you in this time to enter into a moment of meditation. If you want to take a moment to get comfortable in your chair, allow your feet to be grounded on the floor, take a deep, cleansing breath, and close your eyes if that's what's comfortable for you. As you relax into this moment, remember that there is only one presence and one power expressing through all of life. And that divine life that lives in you lives in every person. The same spirit that breathes through you breathes through all people in all places, through every culture, every background, every experience. In your mind's eye, imagine a beautiful stained glass window. Each piece a unique color, shape, and design. No two pieces are exactly alike. Yet together, as the light shines through, they create something far more magnificent than any one piece alone could. Take a moment to silently give thanks for the diversity of life around you, the people who are similar to you and those who are different from you. Give thanks for all the ways Spirit expresses itself in this rich and colorful world. And now gently affirm within yourself, I celebrate the many expressions of the one presence. I honor the divine spark in every person. Through understanding, compassion, and love, I help create a world where all people belong, are valued, and can thrive. Know that as you move through your day, you carry this awareness with you. You are a blessing. You are a bridge builder. You are a living expression of divine love. Allow yourself to be a prism for divine love to express through. Take a moment to rest on this in the silence. One last deep breath in and release. And as you're ready, come back to this space. Gently open your eyes. So what are some ways that we can celebrate diversity through our actions? We can build relationships beyond our immediate social circles or walls. We can partner with community organizations or participate in community events. You have an opportunity next weekend to join others from this spiritual community at Pride Fest. Following that this month, there's a Juneteenth community celebration going on downtown. We have things in Springfield for sure, like the Multicultural Festival, the Japanese Fall Festival, Culture Fest, and a myriad of other things you can check the community calendar for. We talked in our class about the importance of individuals showing up for those activities, even if you're not part of that group, showing up to be a witness, to learn, to understand, and to hear those voices so that you can allow them to be part of your larger mosaic. You can be an active ally. You can speak up when you witness exclusion or prejudice. You can make an effort to learn about experience of marginalized groups. And here was an important thing we talked about, without expecting them to do all of the teaching. It should not be the burden of the marginalized group to continually need to educate everyone else. Like they're asking as an ally that we would make the effort to go read some books, watch some videos, pay attention, attend some of the events, and have learning opportunities that don't involve someone else having to explain and justify their experience to another person. We can use privilege and our circles of influence to create opportunities for others as we can. We can volunteer alongside people from different backgrounds. We can support diverse businesses and artists. This community has a rich network of small businesses that are owned by minority groups and individuals from other cultures that are sharing. They've started a business to share things that we can learn from and we can appreciate, and we can show our support that you are welcome in this community. You are a valued member of this community, and we want to support your business. We can practice inclusive hospitality here, which is welcoming newcomers with genuine curiosity, avoiding assumptions about beliefs, backgrounds, or identities, striving to remember people's names and how to pronounce them correctly, using preferred pronouns when someone has expressed that preference to you. Again, not claiming to be an expert or even proficient. I can say that my awareness shifted and I experienced growth during this course. And I felt a call to action to stay open to learning and practicing love in action even more fully. And again, as Maya Angelou expressed, as I know better, I can do better. Not to shame the version of myself that came before, but to acknowledge that with growth comes responsibility to express from a new place. And so if you wish, I would invite you to join me in some closing affirmations. Together, I celebrate the many expressions of one divine presence. I honor the divine spark in every person. Through understanding, compassion, and love, I help create a world where all people belong, are valued, and can thrive. And so it is. Thank you.